Tabia, and in order to celebrate tomorrow's International Women's Day, I want to share the 5 most inspirational women in the knitting industry today. And I hope that by the end of this video, in case you have lost your knitting mojo a little bit, that you are buzzing with energy and are just feeling proud to be part of this amazing community of amazing knitters and amazing women. The first woman that I want to talk about is Felicia Sample of the Craft Sessions, and she is a knitter and maker and creator and blogger from Australia, and she's probably most known for the retreat, the Craft Sessions, that she organizes each year. And along with the retreat, she has a blog, which is the main reason that I admire her so much. And she writes about knitting and making in combination to like everyday life, and she has these really special thoughts about knitting and making. And for example, she has this series that's called Stashless, where she thinks about her own patterns of buying and acquiring material and stashing them. And I find it so interesting to follow her thoughts about why she purchases and what like psychological things are behind that, and how she's trying to change that and to make more intentional choices that will make her happier in the long run. And if you haven't read her blog yet, I really encourage you to do that, because every time when I go to the blog and read an article there, I really feel inspired, and there's always a new thought that I can take with me from her. Second woman, and these are actually 3 that I want to mention, are Megan Fernandez, Lydia Gluck, and then also Sophie Scott. And Megan and Lydia are the founders of Pom Pom magazine, and I'm also mentioning Sophie because I really love to listen to their podcast, the Pomcast, and that's Lydia and Sophie doing that for me. When I think about Pom Pom, then I think of Sophie as well. If you don't know about Pom Pom Quarterly, I made a review of Line Pom Pom and making, so if you want to hear more about that, you can check that out. But when I started to knit like 6 years ago now, I discovered the magazine quite fast, and for me Pom Pom really is this symbol for what knitting can be today. When other people that are not involved in the community and that are not knitters think about knitting, I think a lot of them think about older people and maybe like more traditional garments. And I think for people that are not knitting themselves, maybe knitted garments are not, they might not really think about knitted garments as the nicest one. I think there's something changing now in how people view handmade clothes, but I think often still like established brands or store-bought clothes still have a higher value in people's mind. And for me, Pom Pom is really one of the main sources and the main reasons that showed me that this is absolutely not true. You can make the coolest and the most amazing garments yourself, and knitting is for cool cats. And for me, that's really Pom Pom who just showed that so much. Every issue of the magazine really inspires me, and the use of color and the patterns they have and the designers they work with is such a huge sort of inspiration every time. So that's really one reason why I love the magazine and why you should also check it out. Third woman that I want to mention is Felicity Ford, also known as Knit Sonic. And she is a knitting artist and sound artist based in Reading in the UK. I was introduced to her work by her book, the Knit Sonic Stranded Colorwork Source Book. And in that book, she developed a system on how to translate everyday inspiration into stranded colorwork knitting. and by that everybody can just learn to, if you see something you like, how you can make a knitting pattern out of that. And for me, that really led to that I am viewing my surroundings in a totally different way, that I much more think about patterns and colors and how they could translate to knitting. And I don't have a background in arts. I think that's why it doesn't necessarily come natural to me to look at like colors or just patterns that I see around me in that way and to make that connection. And that's why I love her book and all of her work so much, because it really is such a good introduction to getting started with that, and also to, if you don't have that art background, to just learn how to work with inspiration that you have and translate it into your craft or something like that. If you want to know more about the Nixonic system, then you can also check out my videos where I talk about how I made a swatch based on Vans sneakers that I still have and still love, and where I talk about my thoughts and how I made that swatch. Fourth woman in my list is Animals, a London-based knitter and artist, and she is, I'm not really sure what she's known for best. She's known as Sweater Spotter on Instagram, and she's also writing a column in Pom Pom Quarterly. And why I think that she is particularly inspiring to me is also the way she talks and describes knitting. So I think she has more like a political and sociological perspective to it sometimes. So she, for example, made a talk about the craftivism and the pussy hat movement based by Pom Pom, and there's like a video where knitters and different designers talk about that. And also her column in Pom Pom is super inspiring, and so there she's talking about the terms continental and English knitting, which is the same as picking or flicking, and what that means, that we still use those English and continental words and what it reflects, and how we should think about what language we are using, which are just perspectives that I find so interesting and inspiring. And on top of that, if you check out her Instagram feed, her name is Sweater Spotter there, which means that that's kind of a street art knitting style kind of account, where she takes pictures of sweaters that she sees when she's out and about in London, which is so cool. And then she also has this series Yarn and Old Cars, where she color matches skeins of yarn to cars that she sees standing around. And it's like, if you read her caption, there's also always something that you can take with you and you get inspired by, and it just sparks a little bit of joy every time I see one of her pictures and read what she writes. So if you're not following her already, you have to check her out. And the last woman is not actually one single woman, but I wanted to save this last spot for all of the women out there in the local communities that you hopefully, or that you can surround yourself. And for me, if I'm meeting up with my knitting friends here and just talk to them what they are doing, what yarns they chose, why they chose them, these are always the most interesting or the most inspiring conversations, because just by seeing what others are doing, that fills me with so much joy and gives me so much inspiration. And I'm just so grateful to be part of this amazing community, and that's also what I wanted to share in this video. So thank you so much for watching. Pat yourself on the back for all of the inspiration that you are sharing yourself every day, even if you don't even know about it. If you want to, you can subscribe to my channel. If you're like me and can never get enough of knitting and never want to stop, talk or think about it, you can also find me on Instagram as Taboosin, and I will be back with another video on Wednesday next week. So it would be nice to see you again there, and until then, thanks for watching and bye bye!